Hi, welcome. Sorry about my voice. Luckily, I'm not talking very much.
Yes, Lori is just going to be the moderator slash to keep an eye out. So we're going to get started though, so that we have some time. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining our webinar on navigating burnout and your nervous system. I am Kristen Holmes. I'm one of the therapists here at Shoreside. I'm going to be walking you through the traffic light that I use with clients, is a metaphor for navigating your nervous system. So for those of you that are catching the replay, thank you so much for joining. We appreciate you being here. Of course, if you have any questions, you'll see my contact information at the end of my name is Kristen Holmes. I'm a licensed therapist here at Shoreside. I specialize in a lot of different things, specifically related to trauma and the body. But stress and burnout is also one of the things that I specialize in as well. As an EMDR therapist, I utilize somatic work, nervous system work in the work that we do. So my main objective when working with clients is to help them navigate chronic stress, and as well as to help them connect body and mind, because sometimes we're in our thoughts and we're not in our bodies, or we're feeling these things in our bodies and we're shut down in our brain. And we're going to talk about why that is. And so by using the traffic light and some mindfulness tools that we're going to learn about today, you can begin to restore balance and begin to navigate your nervous system in a way that actually allows you to move from overwhelm into calm and then into connection. So I'm excited to share this with you today. So today's focus, we're going to use some basic principles of the polyvagal theory. If you've not heard of the polyvagal theory, totally fine. There's a lot of information out there about polyvagal. Basically, the way to kind of work it is that we're going to be talking about the mind-body connection. We're going to be looking at three main states of our nervous system, and we're going to refer to them as green, yellow, and red using a traffic light metaphor. I love this because it's really easy for us to visualize a traffic light. It's also great when parents are trying to teach kids about emotional regulation as well. And so it's a really easy picture and easy visual to help you recognize cues and triggers, and then learn how to shift between the different states, the green, yellow, and the red. You're also going to have some practical tools for self-regulation and co-regulation once we wind up the webinar. So a lot of really good information. Feel free to take notes. If you feel like you can, screenshot the slides and I will go from there. I'm sorry, my ADHD, I can already feel it, is going to kick in. So I am probably more at a yellow if I'm using the traffic light right now. And so, of course, that means that I'm going to be kind of all over the place. So we'll see what happens. But first, we're actually going to take a minute to just be mindful and be here in the present. And so I want you to take a moment. You can do this by closing your eyes. You can leave your eyes open, just taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And I want you to kind of reflect and ask yourself, where are you on your traffic light? Green, yellow, or red? I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. Green means that you're more in a calm and connected state. You're fully able to engage. Yellow means you might be a little bit elevated. Red means completely shut down. Just reflecting on where you are at right now. And if you're in yellow or red, I think a great goal to set would be to see if you can shift to a different state. And if you're in green, then by the end of the webinar, do you feel yourself in a deeper level of common connection?
And if anyone wants to put in the chat any questions or wants to let us know where you are, that also would be good if you could hear that.
If you need a translation, for those of you joining a little bit later, Laurie is dealing with the throat stuff. And so she sounds way worse than she actually feels, I'm sure. But if you need to drop something in the chat, then that would be helpful too. We have a comment coming in saying, "Oh, Laurie, I'm at yellow right now." Michelle saying she's in green. I'm definitely in yellow. So we'll talk about that in a minute. All right. So, just a little bit about the polyvagal theory. I would not recommend grabbing this specific book by Stephen Porges about polyvagal. A lot of clinicians and therapists actually need to read the book that was more translated for us. Well, but Stephen Porges, Seth Porges, they do a great job of walking through what polyvagal theory is. Basically, it is a theory that focuses on how our vagus nerve, which is the nerve that runs throughout our whole body, but it runs from our heart to our head. It's this nerve kind of down the side right here, bulges out occasionally. It talks about how that nerve specifically influences our autonomic nervous system. Like we said before, there are three main states that we refer to in the traffic light as red, or it's green, yellow, and red. But here's kind of the breakdown. Green is safety, and this is when you're in your vagal nervous system. Mobilization is yellow, which is sympathetic. This is what's known as flight or fight. And then red is shut down, also part of the vagal system, but a different branch. And in this branch, instead of feeling calm and connected, we're feeling shut down and collapsed. So when we talk about the polyvagal traffic light, here's kind of the breakdown of what the different zones or different lights mean. In green zone, this is known as safety and connection. You're feeling grounded, you're calm, you're curious, you're connected, not only with yourself, but able to engage with those around you. Your body is relaxed, your breathing is steady. All of your systems, digestion, circulation, those are also steady as well. There's no GI upset. Your brain is open to learning and engaging in social relationships. So, for this, a good example of this is you're having a warm conversation with a friend and feeling present and engaged. The practices that sustain us in this connected place are gratitude, eye contact, and slow breathing. So, for those of you that are sitting in green right now, just kind of doing a check in with yourself and saying, are these the things that I'm experiencing? Do I feel grounded? Do I feel aware? Do I feel in this place? Or does my head feel like it's somewhere else? I love the term, your head is where your feet are planted. That's one of my favorite reality TV show people, but it's also a quote is your head where your feet are planted? Are you feeling calm, curious, and connected? So, the way I like to describe the green zone to people, especially when we're starting to familiarize ourselves with this way of regulation and this way of thinking and connecting mind body together, is in this specific place, this is probably more like moments or experiences rather than just a state of being. Our goal would be that this is more of a state of being. But when I'm working with people who are kind of navigating a lot of dysregulation, burnout, chronic stress, then this is more those mini moments. So you would think of moments that tend to be those favorite memories, right? So for me, one of those is just being at the lake, sitting by the lake, have a cup of coffee in my hand. It's a sunny day. The water is moving maybe a little bit. It's really quiet. I'm able to kind of be aware of what's around me. I'm seeing different things. I'm hearing different things. I'm smelling different things. And I just feel really in the present. That lake moment is like my green zone. That's where I go when I need to visualize a green zone. But there might also be people that you love around you, your kids, your spouse, your partner, your best friend. Those could be green zone moments as well. So when you're learning how to navigate your polyvagal traffic light, instead of looking for like a long period of time, I want you to try to look for a moment, a memory, or an experience. That's the best way to access this So we're going to move to the next one, the yellow zone. Now, this is where I said I was. And so now you're going to get an idea. If you're unfamiliar with the zones, you're going to get an idea of what this zone looks like for me right now. So this is your sympathetic nervous system. And the thing that I want you to remember is that the yellow zone has its whole entire part of our nervous system. Our nervous system is split into different branches, and the sympathetic or our mobilization zone is the one that gets a lot of attention. The reason for that is it's actually the first part of our brain to develop. Our brain develops from the bottom up. And so in utero, our safety zone or the sympathetic nervous system is the first thing that develops. So our flight or fight, it's very innate, it's very primitive, it is the oldest part of us, right? This is where we tend to see there's been an alert to what we perceive as a threat. This can either be like a logical perception or what feels like an irrational perception, right? I just feel like something is off. That's where this comes from. Everything, I was talking to a client this morning, you could look outside and everything appear to be a, amazing and this beautiful day. And you can walk outside, hear a car backfire, and you're instantly in your yellow zone, right? So things are not always as they appear, or things are not always what you see. It is very difficult to see your potential threats or what are perceived threats when you're in the yellow zone, right? Because by nature, we are not in our rational, logical thinking brain when this part of our nervous system is activated. So here you're feeling anxious, you're feeling restless, you're feeling irritated. Your body is activated. So we go back to the systems. The systems are starting to wake up, they're firing. A lot of the times it's a very quick wake up because as soon as we feel a perceived alert or alert to a perceived threat, adrenaline and cortisol are automatically released in our body. So this is why some people feel like that racing heartbeat, that palpitating chest, the tightness, the shortness of breath. It's because there's actual chemicals moving through your body that are beginning to alert your different systems. So everything is sped up. Your mind becomes focused on threats or urgency rather than the ability to actually think and be logical. So here's the example that I use. You get an unexpected email that triggers stress. You feel the urge to act or escape. Have you ever received an email in your inbox from someone who is maybe slightly or more than slightly agitated, and you instantly start reading the email, or you read the subject line and you notice your heart pounding, or you notice being flushed or a lump in your throat? And a lot of the times we just feel the urge. I do anyway. I definitely have more of a fight in me. Sometimes I feel the urge to just go ahead and just pop off an email, right? Or some people go, whoop, I don't want to read that right now. And they just walk away from it. They avoid it. So this is actually a really good way to determine like, what do you lean towards? Are you more of a flight person or are you more of a flight person? Now, there is such thing as freeze and fawn, and we're going to get to that in a minute because actually when you're freezing and fawning, you're not in your sympathetic nervous system. You actually are already in your red zone. So here's another reason why we don't have a rational, logical thought. We have zero access to this frontal part of our brain because when our sympathetic nervous system kicks on, it automatically shuts that out. So if I walk into the street out here onto Oakland and there's a car coming at me, I don't really need to look at that car and go, I wonder how fast that car is going. Who's driving the car? What kind of car is that? Is that a newer car, an older car? Oh, that's green. No, I mean, it's blue. Like, we don't need to be stopping and thinking about this perceived threat that's coming at us. We need to just get the heck out of the way, right? So there's another reason why you do not have access to your logical thinking brain is because you need to be able to respond quickly. And that's why that's the first thing to develop in our system. And so just remembering that if you're in flight or fight, if you're in this mobilization stage, giving yourself some grace when you look back and you start kind of ruminating on why you didn't do something that feels like it was just simple or feels like it was more logical, it's actually because you couldn't. You had no access to like your thinking. So you just responded in the way that your body felt most appropriate, and that's what that is. All right? So here is where you can learn how to regulate. So if you find yourself in this yellow zone, you can use movement like walking or stretching. I love this one and I use it all the time. Now, I want to be honest and I'm going to disclose that I don't always want to use it all the time because if I'm moving into more of a state of fawning or freezing, I don't really want to get out of my house and go for a 5-minute walk. I want to like hunker down in my bed. So usually I have to push myself to go for a walk or to do some stretching because I don't really want to do it. Again, the adrenaline, the cortisol is moving through our body, and that's exhausting. So, the last thing we want to do is probably leave and go for a walk. The bilateral movement, the left, the right, the foot, the engaging, the looking left to right, this is actually the mechanism that our brain uses to calm down. Anything that helps us cross the midline, using left, right, that helps us regulate. So, riding a bike, walking, running, even drawing, moving across the page, helping your eyes move from left to right. Those are the things that help your body calm. Grounding exercises, mindfulness activities. So, grounding exercises would be something like a 4-6 breath count or a 4-8 breath count. It would be focusing on deep breathing. You could use acupressure techniques to take your fingers and press between your thumb and do some deep breathing in and out using that 4-8 count if you needed to. Another thing that I use for grounding is what we call orienting or making ourselves more aware of surroundings. This is where I use tools like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which we've talked about in our mindful advocacy webinar. And I think even hitting in our we have a mindfulness group that meets as well. And so orienting yourself to surroundings, making yourself look around, using your senses to be more engaged and more involved in your environment. So 5 things that you see, 4 things that you feel or touch on your skin, 3 things that you hear, 2 things that you smell, 1 thing that you taste, right? Those orienting exercises bring you from a sense of external to internal, and that helps your body regulate as well. Another trick that I also tell clients is that if you can't remember your senses, once again, you may not have a lot of access to your thinking brain and you go like, what was it? 5 things I don't remember. Then you can use colors. 5 things that are yellow, 4 things that are blue, 3 things that are green, 2 things that are, I don't remember what color, navy, I don't know, like just picking out those colors, right? Or even using shapes. It doesn't have to necessarily be senses based. It's anything that gets you to engage with what's going on around you. Because once again, remembering if we're in the green zone, then calm and connection means that you're socially engaging, you're looking around, you're turning your head, you're taking in what's happening in the present, right? So these are some great tools that can take you from yellow to green fairly quickly if you remember to use them. I just say pick 1 or 2, have them in your arsenal, try them a couple of times. If you don't feel like they're for you, move on to something else. Don't stress yourself out trying to remember 5 different things or whatever. Just pick a couple, practice them a couple of times and see how they feel. All right, we're going to go to red zone, dorsal vagal, shutdown, freeze. All right. So, do you remember when I was talking about freezing or fawning? Feeling numb, disconnected, hopeless. The body energy drops. You may begin to feel heavy or distant. It's hard to speak, hard to think, hard to take action. So if I'm in the yellow, but I'm finding myself having a hard time with brain fog, or I'm having a hard time, I feel just really heavy, or I feel like I need to go lay down in my bed, or just hunker down, start to hibernate, be in a really quiet, dark, neutral space, I'm actually in shutdown. I'm not in yellow. So that's a little bit different because you go from yellow zone, which is in your body, to red zone, which you want to be out of your body. So that's really important if you can learn how to decipher like where you're at when you look at the different traffic light signals, because it can give you a lot of information really quickly, right? So if I'm in shutdown and I am under my blankets in my bed, maybe it's not the best time to try to put on my shoes and go for a walk, right? So I'm going to want to go for gentle sensory input. This is where you want to feel cozy, you want to feel good. Going for a warm tea, holding that cup in your hand and really focusing on the warmth. Taking a sip of tea and focusing on the warmth as it moves through your body. Being in the blanket, reaching out to someone who is trusted. Hey, Lori, I'm really struggling today. I'm having a hard time just focusing. I'm having a hard time just getting it together or just moving, right? I feel really tired. This is the other one that really comes up when we're talking about burnout is a lot of clients that come to see me think that they're struggling with anxiety, but they're actually struggling with burnout. And what that means is that the majority of the time they're actually in shutdown or in freeze. So for those of us who are multitasking women, we seem to always be on the go. We're always doing carpooling or taking kids to sports and things like that. You may be thinking, well, I have days where I'm fine. I'm functioning. I'm able to do all those things. I'm actually going to argue that you're in what we call autopilot. Like you know these things need to be done, you're just going with the emotions. And when you get home at night, you crash. That is still red zone. So remembering this is more about feeling emotionally overwhelmed and you have this desire to withdraw from contact. So a lot of us might feel this at the end of a long week, right? So remembering gentle sensory input, reaching out to someone that you trust, small movements that awaken your body, right? This might be taking a warm shower, or this might be just gentle breathing. I also want to say, as a therapist, that if you're dealing with significant depression, if you feel like you're having a hard time and feeling very disconnected from people around you or even your own self, if you're struggling with thoughts of suicide or harming yourself, that's shut down. And so in this area, there can be a lot of shame, there can be a lot of embarrassment, hopelessness, helplessness. These are those deeper, heavier, harder feelings to navigate. And that's why it's important to just do small things to try to take care of yourself until you can come back into your body. If you're finding yourself in this red zone frequently, then reaching out to a trusted friend, starting therapy, that's going to be a huge part of this. You do not have to stay stuck and shut down all the time. Okay.
To clarify, you could be going, doing all the things that could be yellow zone, but it could be red zone, depending on the energy. Okay.
Depending on the energy. Remembering that in yellow zone, it's the adrenaline and the cortisol that are moving you, right? It's a very different feeling because you can be doing those things and be completely exhausted. Like, I have to do this carpool again. Like, how, like, okay, let's go, everybody. And maybe you're like taking a nap in between drop offs. Maybe you're in the car, but you're not really listening to the kids, you know? So a lot of women actually work, the majority of my practice is women. And a lot of women operate in this state a lot because they're burned out. Maybe it's the time of year, maybe it's the sports calendar, maybe it's, like off balance in the relationship where they feel like they're doing a lot of things and their partner isn't doing as much, right? Those are usually when those feelings start to creep in. It's usually an indication that you're in this red zone area. So if you feel like you can do those things and be rushed and you can move into something else, that tells me you're probably in yellow zone. But if you do these things and then you feel completely, totally exhausted, disconnected, shut down, maybe for the night, maybe for a few days, then that tells me that you're probably operating in more of a burnout state than you are anything else, which means in a burnout state, you might have moments where you feel calm, but it's actually like moments of exhaustion. You're not able to socially engage. You're not able to be curious and compassionate with yourself. There's that, once again, a lot of those bigger feelings, that shame, that hopelessness, that helplessness. That's really where we find a lot of people. And I think a lot of us operate in this, especially going towards the holidays. All the family, all the, you know, activity, all um the yeses that we're saying when we probably need to be saying no. So that's usually people this time of year. In fact, over the last, like I was just telling a client this morning, over the last 3 to 4 weeks, I myself, but most of my clients have come in and they're like, I don't know what it is. I'm just exhausted. And I think even like change of season impacts this, like losing daylight savings. It's darker earlier, right? I think a lot of us actually start to feel this shutdown and freeze around this time of year. And I think part of it is because we love the summer, right? And then when things start to slow down, some of the times our life is not slowing down, right? And so we don't really get a good sense of this. Usually red zone kind of slaps us in the face. It's usually like, "Oh, I just need to sleep," you know? Yeah, you need to sleep. That'll get you back into your body, but it won't necessarily keep you out of this zone. So, all right, here we go. So, regulation strategies and co regulation tools. So, regulation is what we can do for ourself. So, that's why we have some self regulating tools. Co regulation tools are tools where we need help with someone else helping us regulate. This is what we do a lot as parents. We co regulate our children because our children don't have the ability to regulate themselves, or they have to really be reminded to do these things, right? And so I'm not going to lie, there are a lot of us that as adults, we also need co regulation, but I think just breaking it down into these two things kind of help us determine like what we lean towards. Self-regulation tools, 4 to 6 breathing and sighing out slowly breaths. So the way that I teach this is a little bit different from maybe how you've learned to deep breathe before. I breathe in through my nose and push out through my mouth. What I want is I want the amount of air coming out to be forceful or like a sighing, okay? That's moving energy, that's moving breath through your body. Just normal breathing is not going to give you enough oxygen, and it's also not going to get rid of enough carbon dioxide that's building up to actually help your brain begin to calm. So, just practicing with me, let's do 4 to 6 breaths. And you can either push out or you can sigh. And the way that you would sigh is depending on where you are. All right. So, I'm going to actually mute myself. Well, no, I'm not. I'm just going to keep myself muted. Or keep myself on. I'm not embarrassed. So I'm going to do 4 to 6 breaths in and out. So 1 in through your nose, out through your mouth, in through your nose, out through your mouth. 2 more in through your nose. Last one. All right. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit of a shift already after those 4 breaths. The next one that we're going to go into is body awareness. So this is just where I want you to take a minute, closing your eyes, and I want you to notice different sensations in your body. All right. So this is more of like tension, tightness, tingling, heaviness. That's what I want you to pay attention to. Or maybe there's a softness that you're experiencing. So noticing these things and not judging. So just taking a minute. And if you feel comfortable, maybe in the chat, just dropping in some of the sensations that you're noticing. So for me, something that I notice pretty instantly is the emptiness in my stomach. And the judgment could be, I can't believe I skipped breakfast again. Or why am I always so hungry? So just noticing that, right? It's giving you information. So one of the things that I need to do to maybe help myself regulate my yellow zone is to actually get a snack or to eat. And so this body awareness isn't just about like tension and tightness. It's also about noticing what your body is maybe needing or craving or what it's trying to tell you, your cues, and doing that. Oh, I'm noticing that my throat, my mouth is kinda dry. I need to drink more water. I'm gonna fill up my heavy bottle of water that's full, and I'm gonna take some sips, right? So just being more in tune with what the cues are. If you don't hear or notice your cues, it's gonna be really hard to work through, like, to navigate some of this stuff. And so that's a lot of where I start with clients is that body awareness, not pushing off feeling exhausted. Oh, I feel tired, but I always feel tired, right? Really taking in that information and paying attention to, okay, like what's something I can do right now that helps me be a little more intentional about answering that cue. This is also common in people who tend to skip meals by accident, intentionally, like if we restrict. These are things that we kind of lose track of if we make that a habit. Just kind of like that exhaustion that we feel and, oh, thinking about when's the last time I had a good night's sleep, right? So noticing those sensations, noticing those cues, noticing that language that your body is using, that actually helps you with regulation overall. Anchors, keeping photos, scents, or phrases that signal safety. So next to my chair on my side table where I keep my water and my coffee and my million other cups in therapy in my sessions, I also have a really smooth rock that I found on a walk, and someone had actually decorated it with a heart. And so when I found it, they keep kind of a box, and I found it on one of my walks, took a stone, and I will actually, if I feel like I need to anchor myself or I'm feeling a little bit dysregulated in my sessions, I'll actually grab that rock and just hold on to it. And so giving yourself, maybe it's a bracelet. There's lots of fidget bracelets, jewelry that you can do. Maybe it's a scent that you wear, essential oil that you like to diffuse or wear, phrases like, I'm safe, I am here, like those things that kind of bring awareness that signal safety to you. So, co regulation tools are tools that we need to help. We need like we need a partner, a collaborator with, right? This could be the presence of a calm and caring person. If you're in a red zone, co regulation is probably something that would be really helpful. It's more of just having someone there with you rather than actually talking and engaging, right? So, the presence of a calm, caring person, a safe touch that you can do with someone or someone can do with you. You can also give yourself a self hug. I do this a lot in EMDR work. You can rock back and forth while you're giving yourself that hug. That's a vagus nerve calming tool. And just giving yourself that hug, rubbing your arms, right? This is also like tapping. If you use tapping, you can do tapping here as well. Using tone of voice and facial expressions to signal safety. So this would be like the calming voice. Hopefully my voice is calming, but like the tone of my voice now, or facial expressions. I think this is why people often gravitate towards shows. So I will tell people like, do you have like a feel good show or a show that is just very predictable for you? Like you've watched it a million times. Mine is Gilmore Girls, Friends. I'm going to put myself out as a weirdo. It's also Dateline. I typically fall asleep to Dateline and I'll turn it on just enough to, like, hear the voice, not so much the story, because there's something like the tone of Keith Morrison's voice, Lester Holt's voice, they're just so calming. So maybe it's like an audiobook, maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's Friends, Seinfeld, Frasier, I don't know. Like, Just something that feels very calming and predictable. You could also use that here. Noticing the shift when we were starting the regulation tools. Michelle said feeling more relaxed. Lori said her heart rate, tingling toes. Yeah, it's such those like body awareness things are because remember you're working on that mind body connection. And so it is such a big game changer when you can do that. Something that I do frequently is I reflect on like what I feel after my walks, especially if I didn't want to go for a walk. Like I'll stop and I'll go, okay, what changed? What shifted? So like you could ask yourself that question too, like when you're doing those regulation tools, what shifted? Like, what's different from when I started this to when I finished it? Weighted blankets, heated stuffed animals, eye pillows that have heat and add essential oils. Love that too. All right. So, with that, I want you to think of a time where you have moved from red or yellow back to green and reflect on or even drop in the chat what helped you return to safety. Oh, there's my chat. Oh, apologizing.
I was cranky when I was sick. Like, sorry. And it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay.
I've been thinking about like if I'm irritated or like I'm gonna just self-disclose that a yellow zone for me is getting my kids to school in the morning. It usually is I do not like mornings. I usually feel like I'm rushing. Rushing is also a yellow zone trigger for me, being clumsy and dropping things or can't find my keys or whatever, right? And when I get in the car, I usually have a moment to like connect with myself or connect with my kids and just say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was so agitated," or "I'm sorry I was rushing you." That's what I was thinking about when you said apologizing. Sometimes it's not necessarily like what we need to do for ourselves. Maybe it's like noticing or paying attention or attending to something, another relationship too. That brings in that green zone connectedness, social engagement. Catherine says having a good support system around me to validate my feelings, deep breaths, and focusing on what I can control. Breathing, announcing that I need a minute. Yes. Something I talk about with clients is asking, like using your voice, like taking space, especially if you're feeling that, taking mindfulness steps. I love that. I love that. So just reflecting on like what helps you return to safety. I'm going to give you a little bit of an EMDR tip, being an EMDR therapist and using, and I just thought about this, so it's not in the slides, but if you came up with positive things just now when you asked yourself what helped you return to safety, I'm going to teach you how to tap that in using bilateral stimulation. And this is actually a grounding a regulation skill that I use when I'm preparing people for EMDR. And so you want to sit with both feet on the floor if you can, and you can give yourself that self hug here, or you can put your hands on your thighs, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And remember how we were saying when you walk or when you run or you engage in that bilateral movement, it's calming. Movement can shift you from yellow to green. It's because the brain is connecting the calm. It's the mind body connection, but it's also that bilateral stimulation is actually helping your body engage in calm. It's helping your brain, your nervous system go. And so I want you to think about the things that help you return to safety. And then either up here or on your legs, I want you to hold those things. So focus on those things in your mind for a minute. And then I want you to slowly alternate taps 6 to 8 times. So, like slow, like you're rocking a baby. So, focusing on those positive things and then tapping that in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breath in, breath out. Now, I want you to think for a minute if that helped, if that shifted something, like if you notice feeling more calm or more settled. And I want you to reflect on that for a minute. And then I want you to tap that in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breath in and out. If you notice a shift or notice something happening, like you feel like you shifted a little bit, maybe went from, deeper into green or found yourself shifting from yellow to green, I would love to know. So you can just drop something in the chat if you experienced a shift, much more green. Oftentimes when I do that, I feel more grounded. Like I am noticing like my bottom, like I can feel the weight of myself in my chair, or I can feel like my toes in my shoes. Something like when I open my eyes after those breaths and that tapping, I just feel more here. Like there's less up here happening, like noise wise. Thank you. I'm glad my voice is calming. All right. So we are coming to the end. I would really love for you at some point today to either sit and reflect on some things that we've talked about so that you can really start to implement these things in your life. I would also say to reinforce that with something like a walk, that bilateral tapping that I taught you. Do the same thing here. Like, what cues tell you that you're in green, in yellow, in red? Okay. If there's positive things that come from that, then tap those things in. What practices can help you return to green, right? Same thing, that deep breathing, focusing on the present, mindfulness steps, taking a minute, tapping that in. Who helps you feel safe and connected? Same thing. You can also just use these as you're reflecting in a workout, on a walk, while you're driving, just taking some time to really come away with this, like come away with something that you feel like you can start implementing quickly and immediately. So maybe you want to screenshot them or just drop them on a piece of paper or a note in your phone for later. So that's the end of the webinar. I am so glad. This is one of my favorite webinars to do. I do one, this is the second year I've done it around the holidays. Obviously, you can tell probably from how I'm talking or the information I'm giving, it's something that I love and I talk about a lot. I implement it in my own life and I use it with a lot of my clients. So if you're interested in possibly seeing me for therapy or learning more about your nervous system and how we can do some work therapeutically around your nervous system, you are welcome to reach out to schedule a consultation with me. We can talk a little bit more about what you're experiencing and see if we're a good fit. You can reach out to our office and Katie will get you scheduled on my calendar, or you can just simply shoot me an email and I will reach back out to you and get you scheduled for a consultation.
Thanks so much, Kristen.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so glad I got to do this.
Me too. I'll send out a link for the replay as well.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us for our webinar. Remember to check your emails, newsletters, because we have a lot of webinars coming up, groups that are going. If you're not registered, which you should be, if you registered for this webinar, but just reach out to myself or our office to get more information about what we have coming up. All right. All right, everybody. Have a happy Thursday. And yes, see you soon.